lecture series for Introduction to Philosophy. In this video, we're going to turn specifically toward the question, does God exist? And to do that, we're going to look at one family of arguments for the existence of God. We're going to look at cosmological arguments for the existence of God. And in this initial video, before we get into the details of some specific versions of the cosmological argument, what I want to first do is make some general points, first about the structure of cosmological arguments, and also about the underlying guiding question that motivates these arguments. So to begin, let's look at a definition of cosmological arguments. Here's one given by Bruce Reichenbach. He says, a cosmological argument uses a general pattern of argumentation that makes an inference from particular alleged facts about the universe to the existence of a unique being, generally identified with or referred to as God. So what does this mean? Well, we can think of, although all cosmological arguments will be different, they'll have things that are particular or specific about them, they're all going to follow this basic general format. So first, any cosmological argument will have a set of premises, and those premises will contain facts about the nature or origin of the universe. Some examples are, all physical things have a cause, or nothing can cause itself, right? So you're making certain claims about the universe, about the cosmos, about the nature of physical existence. And then the idea is, okay, well, if we have this set of facts that, everything has a cause or it can't cause itself, then we need some explanation of this, right? Why does the universe exist? Where did it come from? Why does everything come about through a cause? We need some sort of explanation of these facts. And so the first conclusion that a cosmological argument will draw is that some unique being exists, which explains the nature or origin of the universe and physical existence. So what do we mean by unique being? Right, so what we mean by unique is just not something we encounter in our everyday lives. So in our everyday lives, we encounter cars and tables and trees and computers and people and all these things, and they're all, of course, different in various ways, but they're also similar in various ways. They all have physical components. They're all finite, right? They're not infinite. They come into being and they eventually get destroyed. Right, so these are basic facts about all the entities or beings we come into contact with on a daily basis. But what the cosmological argument is going to claim is that in order to explain the universe, in order to explain physical existence, to explain the nature of causation, to explain how things work in the universe, there has to be some unique being that is utterly unlike anything we encounter in our day-to-day lives. There must be something which is infinite, which doesn't come into being, which cannot be destroyed, which is immaterial, etc. There must be something fundamentally different from us and from other material objects and things we encounter that explains the origin of the universe. And then finally, a further claim will be made. The second conclusion drawn is that this unique being is not just different from us, but in fact is God. So that's the structure. You start with some claims about the universe, say a unique being is needed to explain those claims, and then you conclude that that unique being is not just anything, that unique being is God. Okay, so we've seen that cosmological arguments are intended to argue that God exists, but we might also wonder, what in fact is God? Remember, the final or second conclusion of the argument is always going to be that unique being that explains the universe is God. So what do we mean by God? Well, of course, one thing to keep in mind is that the term God can mean different things in different people. It can mean different things in different religious traditions. But for our purposes, in a philosophical context, what we mean by the idea of God is something with the following sorts of characteristics. First, we mean a being that is a creator, right? That is responsible in some sense for the fact that the universe exists and the fact perhaps that the universe continues to exist. We mean a being that is all-powerful or omnipotent. We mean a being that is all-knowing or omniscient. And we mean a being that is all-good or morally perfect or omnibenevolent. So if the argument is going to be completely successful, it has to show that this unique being that explains the universe is not just any old being, but it is something that at least could have these characteristics. it should give us some reason to think that there's a good likelihood that whatever this unique being is something that created the universe, that's all powerful, that's all knowing, and is all good. Now, not every cosmological argument might do that, or maybe it will only do this partially. But if a cosmological argument at least gets us moving in the direction of providing us some reason to think that the unique being has these characteristics, then it will have made great progress toward its goal. Okay, so that's the basic structure of a cosmological argument. I also want to say something about the fundamental motivating question which really underlies all versions of the cosmological argument. So there's a philosopher named G.W. Leibniz who once posed the following famous question. Why is there something rather than nothing? Why is there something rather than nothing? Now, this is a very sort of odd question at first, because you might say, well, okay, wait a minute. Why is there something rather than nothing? We have two options. There could be a thing that exists, there could be things in the world, or there could just be nothing. And you might just be tempted to say, well, I mean, what's the point of that question? There just are things. At some point, we have to stop asking the question, why, right? And when you get to asking the question, why does anything exist rather than nothing exist, maybe you've just hit the wall of explanation. You know, it's like, when I was a kid, for instance, as a budding philosopher, I loved to play the why game with my parents. So no matter what explanation they gave me, I could always ask the question why until they got frustrated and simply wanted to walk away. And you might say, well, you know, maybe that's how we should respond to Leibniz here, right? I mean, if we've explained, right, all the things that happen within the universe, right, and we haven't, but if you imagine that scientific progress was such that we explained everything that happened within the universe, a complete account of how the physical world works, and then Leibniz comes up to us and says, you know what, I want something more. That's great that you've explained how everything works in the universe, but why does the universe exist at all? Maybe we just treat him like that child and we would say, look, you're getting annoying here. Why are we asking this question? Haven't we explained enough? Don't we have a stopping point of asking why? So you could take that route to answering this question. You could say this is sort of a nonsense question or a question we don't really need to worry about. But if you're a proponent of the cosmological argument, as Leibniz was, he used the cosmological argument to demonstrate the existence of God. If you're a proponent of the cosmological argument, then there's no deeper, there's no more fundamental or more important question that you can ask. And it's simply to ask, why does anything exist at all? And Leibniz would say, well, if you just brush off this question, if you say this question isn't important, then you're holding a strange double standard, because we don't take that attitude toward any other question of this sort. For instance, I'm wearing a blue shirt right now. And, you know, someone could ask me, well, Ryan, why are you wearing a blue shirt? And, you know, were I to say to that person, no reason, there's no possible explanation, well, you would get annoyed with me. Like, well, what do you mean there's no possible explanation? Certainly, you can come up with an explanation. It's not like some mysterious fact, right? I mean, the explanation might be odd. It might just be that this was the only shirt that was clean, or it might just be that this is the shirt I tripped on this morning as I was leaving my room and I had thrown it on the ground the previous day, so it was convenient. There might be many explanations why I could give for why I'm wearing a blue shirt right now. But we might find it very annoying if I just told you that the question can't be answered. And notice, we treat all sorts of questions like this, right? You say, so, why did you decide to attend the university where you went to school? And you might say, well, you know, there's no reason. Now, you might not be fully aware of the reason. There might be things in your mind of which you're not aware. There might be motivations you have that you're not fully cognizant of. But still, we think there's some reason. There's some reason why you chose to go to that university as opposed to a different university. There's some reason why you chose to have a turkey sandwich instead of a salad for lunch. Leibniz was fundamentally convinced that there must be an explanation for everything. And in our common lives, we proceed under this assumption. We think that things happen for a reason. There's some explanation of why things occur, even if we don't fully understand it or we don't have all the information we need. So the question really is, why would you take that attitude all the time in your life? And then when we get to the question of why does anything exist as opposed to nothing existing, you just simply stop, throw up your hands, and say, oh, we don't need to worry about that, or we can't answer that question, or that question is nonsense. Leibniz says, no, we need to go all the way down with explanation. We need not only to think about why did you have a turkey sandwich for lunch instead of a salad, we need to ask the question, why does anything exist at all rather than nothing existing? And for Leibniz, as you might gather, he thought that explanation fundamentally was God. Ultimately, the explanation for everything is God when you go far enough down. But if you just look at the question of why is there something rather than nothing, it's because a being, namely God, brought something into existence. And if we don't posit that unique being, God, then we have no explanation for why there are things in the world instead of nothing in the world. And this would mean there's a sense in which the universe is not completely intelligible, that there's some answers that simply don't have questions. And Leibniz simply couldn't abide by that. So if you think that we can intelligibly ask questions of why about anything that happens or anything that exists, then the cosmological argument might have a lot of appeal for you. It certainly did for Leibniz. Now, given this structure of cosmological arguments, when we're evaluating cosmological arguments, we should keep the following questions in mind. So remember, a cosmological argument begins with premises that state facts about the nature or origin of the universe. So the first question to keep in mind when we're thinking about these arguments is, are the facts identified in the premises of the argument true? Is it true that everything has a cause? Is it true that nothing can cause itself, etc.? Secondly, we've seen that cosmological arguments use these facts to argue that a unique being exists. So the second question is, to explain those facts about the universe, to explain why there's something rather than nothing, for instance, do we need a unique being? Do we need something fundamentally outside of space and time? Do we need something that can't be studied in a straightforwardly scientific way? Do we need a unique being, or can we explain those facts through more ordinary scientific means? And finally, the final jump the argument makes is that not only is there this unique being, but that unique being is God. So we might also ask the question, has the argument given us enough reason to identify that unique being as God? Has it given us enough reason to think that that unique being could be a creator that's omnibenevolent, omniscient, and omnipotent? So these are the questions you'll want to keep in mind as we evaluate these arguments. And in this lesson, we will look at two versions of the cosmological argument. We're going to look at the argument from causation that was outlined by St. Thomas Aquinas, and we'll also look at the Kalam cosmological argument as it is outlined by the philosopher William Lane Craig. But to get into the details of the arguments, we'll save that for future videos. So I will stop here. I hope this introduction was useful, and I will see you in the next video.